my inspiration for the book was when I was in graduate school, I always had this idea that I wanted to write books, but I didn't know what kind of books I wanted to write. I was studying nonfiction, and I wrote a lot about boxing. I wrote profiles of boxers, and I was doing some personal writing, but more or less it was a lot of just more straight nonfiction. And so when I finished school, I was kind of nervous because all of a sudden I felt like, oh no, I'm going to be out in the real world again. And so I was trying to think of something to do. And so I personally have a lot of embarrassing stories, and I like to tell them. And so I was living with a woman at the time who I had an embarrassing thing happen to me one afternoon, and so I went home and I told her, and she laughed, and then she said, you know, you have a lot of these, and I feel like it would be really kind of funny if you went around collecting other people's embarrassing stories. And so I didn't love the idea, but I thought, okay, that could be kind of a fun thing to do, because I like people, and I often, you know, it's New York, so oftentimes you find yourself talking to strangers on the subway, and so I felt like, oh, I could do that. I mean, the book is also very much about coming of age and becoming comfortable in my own skin, and so I think that when one is younger, you have more sort of opportunity for being embarrassed because you're just not comfortable with yourself. And so it definitely, there's a link to maturity, I think. It's funny, I got a hard copy of the book in the mail last week, and I was really excited. And so I was going to my friend's house for dinner. She hosts this weekly dinner with friends, and so I had it in my hands when I walked up the stairs, and I said, Carrie, look. And so she took the book and she ran into a room with all of these other people, and I really had meant to only show her. And she said, oh my gosh, look, look. And so all of a sudden I'm eating dinner and it's being passed around the table. And people were excited, which is nice. Very, you know, it's exciting when other people get excited too. And so it was really nice. But then one guy, I think it was the only guy at the table, opened up to a passage where, a very sort of romantic passage where I'm at the beach and I take my top off. And so he flipped to it and he looked at me and he said, oh, wow. And all of a sudden I turned really beet red, and it was funny because I thought, oh wow, 4 years later, after having written this book and thought about this topic ad nauseum as it relates to me, as it relates to other people, I think I blushed for the first time